Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I know it's a very bad time of the afternoon, so I'll try not to make sure you're bored out of your brains. As Anton said, I'm going to talk to you about knowledge management and not, how within our sector we actually manage it or not. It's a point of view, so some of it may be challenging, some of it may be go along with a number of other sessions this morning as well. So what I'd like to do is really start off with just a context of just set the scene in terms of what we're talking about. Right, that works, brilliant. Right, so you heard Norman Moore this morning as well. It is a cyclical sector. We have to accept that. You look at a couple of last year and right up to probably about June, April, May, June, we were talking about the boom. We were talking about resource shortages actually stalling the growth, really causing a problem in our ability to meet demand. But just about a month ago, few weeks, last couple of months, it's all doom and gloom again. BHP mothballing $50 billion worth of projects, Rio Tinto's announcing cutbacks, second-tier miners, redundancies, and it's almost like the mining sector's stopped. It's dead. Let's go home type of thing. But the reality is that we have to remember that there are clear predictions that the demand's going to carry on. There is demand in the marketplace. I don't think anyone can refute that, right? They're still strong. There's going to be a shortage of mining workers in the next 5 years as well. I think in Aaron's presentation just before tea, he was talking about 210,000 people. The numbers vary, but most of the statistics are over 100,000 in the next 5 years, right? That's a lot of people. And the aging workforce. So I won't keep going on about that, but it's just scene setting because I think we all recognize this aging workforce. There's a chronic shortage of specialist skills. If we carry through that, again, it's just we have to accept that we will always be subject to volatile commodity prices, government regulations, rising costs, intensifying competition. It's a fact of life. So our sector is always going to be cyclical. But at the foundation, we have major issues in terms of people. There are turnover rates. Last year's average turnover rate was 20%. The year before, 28%. It varies from 2 to 59%. There are figures of 200+% increase in salaries in the sector, right? There are major issues just replacing the 20% as opposed to looking at filling positions in times of growth when we're going up the curve. And it's clear, ongoing knowledge loss is there, increased costs. It's a fact that we've had these issues over the last few years. We've talked about it. Many conferences have addressed these issues. There have been papers written, and the universities are doing a fabulous job in terms of training people and bringing people into the sector. If I park that and say, what have we done? And I may be challenging here, but we have put a huge amount of focus in automation, remote operations, right? The mine of the future. I mean, about 5 or 6 years ago, it used to look like it was off the pages of a science fiction novel, you know, large autonomous robots drilling blast holes, crushing rocks. It's reality now. You have mines actually using that technology. They're functioning, they've reduced costs, they've reduced the dependence on people. But the key point I want to make is, how has that happened? It's happened because we looked at the underlying technologies. We looked at what other sectors have been doing. We used what the other sectors have been doing, leveraged the underlying technologies, and then created an environment that's actually set the bar so high that it's leading globally, right? But at the same time, this needs to be balanced with the people. I don't think any of the leaders in automation who have been driving this whole, the automation, remote operations over the last number of years in Australia or globally will ever say that you won't need people. People are always going to be needed. That's a fact of life. So we need to balance it and say there needs to be a focus on people. They need to be enabled because operational management, efficiencies, optimization has to be done with people. But we have let knowledge management, the management of knowledge, fall behind in our sector. And the key point I want to make is that we really need to take it and say, leverage underlying technologies, bridge the gap, but we have an opportunity to actually be leaders, just as we have led in remote operations. We can do it, but it needs consistent focus. And that's where I keep saying knowledge is worth its weight in gold, but we need a consistent focus, regardless of the cycle. One of the key issues is that knowledge management tends to be an IT project, right? So as soon as there's a down curve, what gets cut first? IT projects. When there's an up curve, you say, oh, shivers, how do I get these people trained? How do I get documentation to them? How do I get my procedures? And then we scramble to put something together to get this out there. But we need that consistent focus, giving them the right skills. How do they know the right processes? How do they learn from job experience? How do we ensure they'll be safe? They don't have the experience out there, right? Business improvement is key. If the aging workforce, we're losing that knowledge, how do we keep these people connected with the rest of the thing? How do we create that culture? These questions have to be part of the business planning, business strategy, not an IT project. And it has to be consistent, regardless of the cycle, because the cycles are going to keep going up and down. It's inevitable. So the key really, and where I want to take you, is really the fact that there have been advancements in information technology. They provide the foundation. Other sectors have started using it, the closest being manufacturing. We need to adopt those and adapt them. Better collaboration of tacit knowledge. Aaron spoke about tacit knowledge. It's all the experience we carry in our heads, the things that the baby boomers have in their heads that we don't document. We need to capture that in some way in conversations. We need to share that. We need to collaborate, enable the younger generation to actually use that knowledge. Then the explicit knowledge, your documents, procedures, how-to manuals, drawings, whatever you have there. How do you manage them? How do you access them? How do you share that? Right. And then surrounding this whole thing is the younger generation is coming in. We have to somehow reduce that turnover rate. We need to retain them a bit longer at least. It's going to take some time, but we need to do something about it. And that's where I start off by looking at the younger generation. You look at the way they collaborate at the moment. Social media, collaboration, communication platforms. They go onto blogs. They communicate with friends and family on that, professional networks. Social media is a de facto means of communication and information sharing today for the younger generation, right? 62% of Australian internet users use social media. This is Facebook statistics. 900 million users in Facebook. 300 million pieces of information are shared every day on Facebook. And if you look at Australian statistics, 55% of our population actually uses Facebook at the moment. That means they're starting at a very young age. I know my daughter, who's 11 years old, is using Facebook. I'm not overly keen, but it's a fact of life for them, right? Just imagine if you take that power of collaboration, of information sharing, and the culture, and take it into your own organization, right? And say, right, now I'm going to create that environment where people are going to collaborate. I'm not talking about actually opening up Facebook. I mean, there are organizations that have opened up Facebook to increase retention. Legal firms, there are insurance companies that have opened up Facebook, and the key thing is to be able to retain the younger generation of people. They feel that people will feel more connected. What I'm talking about is the foundation technologies that are available in the market today that allow you to have a business, a secure Facebook-like facility within your enterprise. Totally secured, but it gives the new entrants the same feel. They can have a conversation with people in real time. They can look for an expert. They're doing a job and they look and say, look, I'm not sure what I do. They're not embarrassed. I know if I joined a company, I'd be really embarrassed. You know, do I really want to say I don't know how to do this? It's a different culture. They're happy to put it on Facebook and publish it to the world that they have no idea what they're doing, right? And you give them that, form communities of practice. It's much more effective than the current way of collaboration, which is using wikis, emails, etc., and the way communities of practice actually work today. You take that a little bit further, and you look at the advancements in mobility, positioning technology. It starts allowing people at remote sites to be connected to your organization on an iPad, iPhone, Android. Right. Some of the, if you look at the analysis in terms of attrition rates, the key thing is that some people just leave the organization because all they see is they fly in, work for 4 days, fly back in. They do not feel part of the organization. They're just doing a job. The people leave because the size of the TV and the canteen food is actually better in another mine site. Right? That's the analysis you find. What if they're engaged? What if you can engage them? Allow them to be connected from remote sites with the rest of the organization. They feel part of your organization. They feel connected. They feel there's a network, a collaborative network that's supporting them. That's going to change in terms of retaining them a bit longer. And then, of course, you can let your imagination go further. Positioning technology allows you to guide them from an operations center in terms of hazards, everything based on their location, sending them directions in terms of that, because you can actually, these technologies and solutions allow you to actually blast out directions and instructions. Now, I started talking about this, I'm pretty passionate about this. I've been talking about this for the last 8 or 9 months. And about 8 or 9 months ago, mining companies in our sector were just dipping their toes in, but really fearful about actually getting into this. Now they have started. I know of a large mining organization that's effectively started using social media tools. The senior executive communicate with their staff using that. They publish communications on that. It started off with 400 people. Now it's 5,000 in 6 months. It's going viral in the organization. Going viral is not the right way. You need to actually plan it out. But what I'm saying is that people are starting to use it. But we need to move fast, and we need to embrace these technologies, because we need to capture that tacit knowledge. You have the tacit knowledge, conversations in these tools. There are solutions that effectively can scan through, capture them, understand the trends, what people are finding hard to look for, where are the questions coming, which area they're coming. You can capture those and use it later. Now, I've spent enough time on tacit knowledge. Let me just move on to explicit knowledge. Explicit knowledge is not new. I don't think there's a mining organization that hasn't got either a business case, a project in progress, a failure, or in some cases actually successes in putting solutions to manage documentation, procedures, etc. It's been there. But these projects are notoriously hard to execute and get business benefits from. And the key reason is that they're IT projects. People get really excited by the technology solution. It's really exciting, so they go and say, right, we're going to do this humongous thing, and the IT department is very proud of it. But you've got to take a step back. So let me just look at each of them. look at knowledge management. And what I'd like to put to you is that there are 3 dimensions to, to a knowledge management success. Find, manage, and share. They're interdependent. One without the other will not give you the business benefits, right? Ease, availability of information, appropriate integrity of the information. It has to be accurate, it has to be correct. Share, the collaborative authorship and group ownership. So let me go through each one very quickly. Find, I don't have to go through too much in terms of what that's about. Solutions are available. When you go onto the internet today and you have no idea what to look for, where do you go? You open up Explorer, you go to Google. Imagine an environment where you just go to a Google search, because Google search can be used within your own environment. Microsoft has its own search engine. There are many search engines that can be used. But there are organizations, there are projects that I know of that have been going on for 6 months to implement a search engine and still in a pilot stage. The reason? The IT departments decided that they need to search across every single repository in the organization. GIS data, documents, procedures, technical standards, 2D drawings, 3D drawings, the whole works. And it takes ages. You've got to take a step back. Who's the intended audience? Remember what we're trying to resolve. We're trying to give new entrants the processes, the experience, the right way to do things. What are they looking for? What's the trade-off between richness and reach? You can have reach, the amount of information, but in actual fact, all you're looking for is operational efficiency and management and safety. There are a number of other things, but realistically, so you need to narrow it down. And when you narrow it down, it's much easier to implement these solutions. If you look, integrity, management, and that's really based around processes, workflow engines. Workflow engines are there. I won't spend too much time on that. The key point I want to make is you need to balance speed and bureaucracy. When you start saying, right, I got to get a document approved before I put it out, there's a tendency to say it's got to go through 4 levels of management right up to the general manager before a document can be released. Well, really, does it need to? What's the most important information? What do you need to actually put out there? Who needs to approve it? Make it simple. Workflow engines are very simple to implement. The more complex they are, the more bureaucracy. One, you're going to go against the culture because people are going to think, why bother? Why bother improving it? It's going to take about 4 weeks before it's published, right? So that's a key point there. And then share is very important. And it goes back to social media. And I was talking about social media tools and the usage of social media to actually share information. But the tools are there, solutions are there. In this case, when I talk about share, I'm not talking about tacit knowledge. I'm talking about you have a process. I look at it and I say, look, hang on, this needs to be updated. I update it and I put it back. Enhance it, put it back into the process. It gets approved and republished. Solutions are there, very simple to implement. But then the key issue comes down to what's the culture in your organization? Do you have that culture where people actively share information with the aim of promoting and improving it? Do you have a culture of discover, adopt, and adapt? Otherwise, all that explicit knowledge is going to be aged in a while. So I'd like to finish off with just leaving you a thought. Technology solutions are readily available and can be rolled out very quickly. But is the culture there? You need the culture of discover, adopt, and adapt. You need the way of enhancing that information as we go through. So therefore, one of the key things in knowledge management is the emphasis on creating that collaborative culture. Now, I take you back to where we started and said, there's a younger generation that needs to come in. So if you don't have that culture in your organization. There is a whole generation of workers and miners who actually can accelerate that change in the culture within the organization, because that is their culture. Their culture comes in with a sharing. It's a sharing, collaborative culture. So I'll leave that, because I think if we focus on collaboration and knowledge management, we actually can set the bar high. We've started the journey. We need to have a consistent focus on it. And we can be leaders as much as we've been leaders in remote operations and automation. Thank you.